Network Entertainment.
A lot of us are very conditioned to like blame.
Yes.
You did this kasi to me. Pero
Yes.
like to have that reflection of, of real of like thinking about like, okay, where did I go wrong naman that have
Yes.
that contributed to this
Yeah.
particular thing.
So it's also being wary because we can also go to self-blame.
Mm-mm.
Diba? Parang,
True.
so it's not self-blame. It's actually proactive accountability of, of what led me to this situation. Because we always talk about, there's no external trigger. And that's so hard for people to say. No external, of course not. She
It's really her, eh. It's really him, eh.
him.
To help deepen the discussion surrounding relationship conflict, I've invited married couple, certified facilitators, and coaches, Kit and Inaki Llamas, or Inakit for short. They're the founders of Conscious Alchemy, which is an organization that offers exclusive and innovative learning programs for those who want to be guided on parenting, self-discovery, self-improvement, and relationship conflict resolution. Okay, so you hesitate to bring up relationship conflict. Are you afraid that it might end things? Today, I'm joined by Kit and Inaki Llamas, and it's such a pleasure to have you guys here on the show. I am so happy. I'm so excited to talk to you about relationship conflict. And I figured, Kit and Inaki, I wanted to have two sides din kasi. Because, right, it is a relationship after all. I can't just keep talking to a singular person. 'Cause that's a one-sided conversation. When a conflict is a two-way street, apparently. So, I want to know, like, just to kick things off, why are people afraid of starting or addressing conflict, especially in their relationships?
Who wants to fight nga naman?
Diba? That's true. Yeah.
And if we take a look at it, diba, when we're afraid of something, when there's a fear, then there's a belief system about it.
Right.
So I think when we talk about why are you afraid, especially nga if you're already thinking it might be the end of the relationship. Sometimes when we have in a relationship, diba, we need to talk. Diba? Oh my
diba?
gosh. It instills some fear there. And I think it's because of our experience or belief system about conflict itself. So when we talk about a relationship, so what is your belief about conflict? So most of the time, the myth around conflict is conflict means there's something has gone wrong. So what is really the truth about conflict? Does it really mean that something is wrong? And we know that the truth about it, conflict just means that something that used to work is no longer working now.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't mean there's something wrong. It just means a change.
We have to do something.
You have to do
different.
something. A change needs to be made.
Remember when I think it was Martina who mentioned it? Papa, if I keep doing the same thing over and over again and nothing's working, then people will get frustrated, or I will get frustrated. So when we are in a relationship and we're still living in the honeymoon stage, and when we're already 10 years into the relationship, it's scary also if I keep on doing the same thing over and over, not knowing that maybe my partner is getting triggered.
Yeah. So it's just a signal, conflict, that it's an opportunity to change. So we need a paradigm shift about conflict. So what are the other myths about conflict? That conflict is a win or lose.
Yeah.
Right or wrong?
Right or wrong,
Me
right?
versus you.
Me
Yeah.
versus you. I'm the one who's right. You're the one who's wrong.
Yeah.
But it's not really about winning or losing.
Right.
That's why people are afraid. No one wants to lose, diba? I mean, so I think to reframe it also, when we have conflict, it's really about a signal nga that something needs to change. And
or to learn something from it.
let's learn something from it. And what can we learn something from this issue where we can both benefit? So we have to like reframe. We don't see the benefit of the conflict. That's why we're afraid.
Mm-mm.
And the third part is, if it's about change, who will lead the change? Diba? Parang, it's not about I'm going to lose, but it's really who will lead the change.
Who will change for
Who will change first? Like,
So there has to be some form of like modeling.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So if we didn't have that modeling growing up,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And you saw, let's face it, like your parents or at home where you grew up, your family environment, when your parents or people at home were fighting, what was the impact to you? So that's why we're afraid, because we don't want that to happen. We don't want, because we weren't modeled how it is to fight to fight well, or to fight right,
Mm-hmm.
or to be able to navigate conflict situations. That's why I think people are so afraid, because what you said, there's no modeling.
Yeah.
And it made us, in our nervous system, it imprinted to us talaga when someone is fighting, even nga yung tone of voice,
Yes.
it triggers something in us that we immediately just shut down. Like,
And if I may add to that,
Yeah.
no? Besides the modeling, it's also about, was it processed? Did we talk about it?
Mm-mm.
Later on, I think when there's conflict, it's really about, okay, we're here now, but what happens then?
Yeah. True. And I like that you mentioned like it wasn't modeled growing up, or how to resolve or address conflict in a healthy way growing up, which a lot of us can relate to, of course,
Yes.
because not only was it from our caregivers we've observed this, even in like teleseries, diba, nagsisigawan sila. So parang we
Yes.
think na parang that's the right way to do
Yeah.
conflict.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not modeled an alternative way.
Yes.
So when we are young, okay, and we experience conflict, when a child sees your primary caregivers in a conflict, and it's not in the right way or in the proper way of navigating conflict, the interpretation of the child is always about they're fighting because of me.
Yeah.
Diba?
That's true.
So I can't do anything, that they're fighting because of me, or I'm not good enough, So it's always an interpretation about their own self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
So now when you grow up and you have an adult in a relationship, you also have that interpretation that there's something wrong with me,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm not enough.
We've carried that kasi growing
Yeah,
up,
because
yeah.
we carry that. So when there's also conflict, we growing up, I remember like we learned this in Dr. Gabor Matas' class about attachment and
Authenticity.
authenticity. So
So when
Next.
when growing up,
Mhm.
there are two things that children or anybody needs. It's being authentic and being attached.
Mhm. Right.
And when something's got to give, chances are we'll give up authenticity. So when there are, let's say, conflicts, and you were the one who wronged
Mhm.
somebody else, if I can put it that way, and wherever it's going, the one who wronged, will try to, in a way, okay, I can let go of this, I can let go of that, I can let go of this, until things get better. If that is done in a long or prolonged, then there's a real big chance that you will, in a way, lose who you are
Right.
as an individual in that relationship.
Yeah, that's so true. It's like we want to. I guess it also applies to a lot of people pleasers. Na
Yes.
parang kung growing up nga, it's like you walk on eggshells if you have a volatile-ish caregiver.
Yes.
And other examples na rin. So it's like you mold yourself in such a way that keeps them happy, that keeps you like in good graces with them.
Correct. So you suppress your authenticity.
Mhm.
If there's a threat to the attachment, then your attachment will always trump over authenticity. You will give that, you will suppress authenticity for that attachment to
Mhm.
your primary caregiver. And that's how you are conditioned.
Yeah.
So you now have coping mechanisms when there are conflict.
Yeah.
You either fight, flight,
Freeze.
freeze, fawn,
Mhm.
or
Or
fix the situation. So that leads also how would it look like in a conflict when there's conflict and your nervous system is I'm gonna fight, okay, because I'm defensive, diba? I'm gonna fight. So usually that's when you're very defensive. So you're always just protecting yourself. You're not really admitting the mistake. And it reminds me of the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse by Dr.
By the
John
Gottmans,
Gottmans. By the
yeah.
Gottmans. Diba? Parang that's your nervous system response actually is the behavior response when you are in conflict.
Yeah.
So it's either blame or criticism, defensiveness, stonewalling, or
Contempt.
contempt or
Contempt,
disrespect. Yeah. So those four things when you are kunwari kami, what is your when we're fighting?
You were able to name it na. No, that's great.
Yeah.
At least knowing it, diba? You're aware.
Yeah.
What I think in a relationship of 18 years already, well, husband and wife, and a little more girlfriend boyfriend, you really have to be able to. I really had to adjust because I was always used to doing things on my own for the first 30 plus years of my life. And it's not fun when you are in conflict. It's not. So when we would get into conflict, I would either get away, no? Okay, tama na. This is so uncomfortable. I'm going to just leave, no? And then I would see that when I did that, it prolonged the thing because Kit naman sometimes depends, no? Sometimes Kit would be a freeze.
Freeze.
No,
Yeah.
she'll just
I won't
get
say
quiet.
anything.
No?
Yeah.
I give him the silent treatment.
Oh, so it's like you it's not necessarily like your brain kind of just like fogs up, like you can't think, but it's more of like you're deliberately giving the silent treatment. You
Give
wanna
them
talk.
the silent
And that's
treatment.
that's
Yeah.
so, and then me naman, when it's so silent, I'm like, what do I do here?
And he asked me, "What's wrong?" In my mind, "What's wrong? You don't know what's wrong." Oh my gosh,
Diba?
I have to ask.
So when the silence has been there for a while already, I'm like, I'm sorry.
and then I'm
Biffy,
gonna
I'm sorry.
answer.
And then what's her question?
Sorry for what? I don't know.
And then I have to think again. What am I sorry nga ba for? Because so, sa dami ng complications because of the different conflicts, nagpatong-patong na siya.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are like the response because I guess when growing up, we also see it, diba, from our primary caregivers na my mom would like be quiet about it, you know. She would let us know. I mean, it's obvious that she's bothered about something. And my dad would have his own like coping mechanisms. But it's only now that we were adults that we've learned, okay, it's a coping mechanism. Yeah, it's a coping mechanism. And that helps us or to understand also why we go or what is our approach when there's conflict. So, like watching teleserye, diba? Parang sometimes when you see them fight, ang daming sampalan or, you know, or
Slamming the doors,
slamming the
mga
door.
ganon.
So, if that's also your modeling, of course, you're going to, that's how
That would be the common
reaction. Then you don't even question it sometimes until may alternative pala.
Yeah, I think it's not a common practice to actually question na parang there's a different way to handle conflict. Kasi yun nga, it's what we see everywhere, is what we see
Mhm.
growing up also. And so for those who are listening and those who want to know, uh first of all, why is it important? Because we're non-confrontational as Filipinos, right? So we have a tendency to sweep things under the rug.
Yes.
And so why is it important to not necessarily, because I feel like confront is already a triggering word for many,
Yes.
diba? So like, why is it important to address conflict? What happens if we don't, or if we avoid doing that?
Mhm. Yeah, so if
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
if I may, it's we go back to beliefs, right?
Yeah.
The traditions, the Filipinos being colonized under different other countries.
Yeah.
The Spanish, the Americans. I only recently found out the British
Yes,
for a
like
while,
2 years
Yeah.
or something.
and then the Japanese, right? So
Mm-mm.
we were under so many different other countries,
Mhm.
and because of that, we didn't speak up. We decided to just say yes, yes, yes,
Mhm.
or didn't have no reaction, because we had to follow other people. So when fast forward so many years, it's all about now. Okay, when something's happening, we do the same thing.
Mhm.
So going to your question, it's really about, so what do we do, diba? What do we do about it? It's so we have the conversations, even if we don't know what we're arguing about. Sometimes conflict, like I was mentioning earlier, sometimes it's just one after the other. We don't know anymore what we're fighting about.
Mhm.
So number one, I think you still have to we go back to authenticity and attachment.
yeah.
You have to really know where you're coming from as an individual. The way we were talking about it earlier,
Mm-mm.
self-work.
Yeah.
If you don't know where you're coming from, then how can you even put up an argument if we're going to that
Yeah,
that-
behind kasi every like fight, defensiveness, stonewalling, or it's just a wish. There's just a need
Yeah.
that wants to be met. There's a dream that wants to be fulfilled. So you want to be seen, you want to be heard. You want to have more purpose and meaning. So if we're always suppressing that part of us, what happens in the relationship? It becomes stagnant.
Mm-mm.
Diba? Parang you're not growing and you're losing the opportunity now to connect and grow in the relationship. And then you're going to wonder, how come parang ang boring na ng relationship natin? Or it's just the same old pattern. So that's the impact now if we keep on suppressing our authenticity and not have a dialogue, a meaningful conversation around it. If we are so afraid.
Mm-mm.
So, but it takes awareness first.
being
right?
present. You have to be when you're in that situation already. You really have to be. You listen, because sometimes it's so hard because there's so many things.
You have so many thoughts. You want to
Yeah.
reply. You want to
Yes.
respond or react.
And then
Yes.
when it's quiet, you're asking yourself, am I supposed to answer? Was that a question? Diba? And sometimes the other person is waiting for the answer, and I'm the one saying, I'm with all the things happening in my head, which again becomes another conflict. So it just piles up one after the other.
So when there's already conflict, I think one is the change in mindset. That's the first thing.
Right.
How do we see conflict? If we're seeing it as an opportunity to learn and grow and evolve our relationship, then we need to ground it. What is our highest intention? Why are we fighting? Or why are we in this space
Disagreement.
of disagreement? Okay, so you need to refresh the intention. Where your intention is, that's where the attention will also flow and the energy will flow. So paradigm shift first. Okay, we have conflict. Now we turn the trigger into, okay, it's a clue. Okay.
Yeah.
So sometimes when we're fighting now, because we're aware, okay, it's time for a date.
Really? Like in the middle of it, they were like, okay, you know what?
you already know that there's
No,
There's
I think
something.
what if I may, I think since we already know each other and we know, okay, Inyaki's getting triggered or I'm triggering Kit, okay. So what am I, okay, I know it already. So what do I do next? Parang meron na siyang, okay, I have to listen. This is not a fix it time. It's about just to listen. And then when I'm not saying na, oh, we're going to go on the date because of what happened. No, it's parang reward, no? No, it's really about, okay, that was
Accountability.
tough. That was really tough.
Yeah.
And thank you for still being here with me after, being here with me even if it was really, really tough. Let's rest. We've Are there anything else that we need to talk about? After that, okay, this was tiring. Do you want to have dinner? Do you want to do something that you'd like to do?
Yeah.
No, especially when I know it was, because sometimes there really is. Yeah, I know it takes two to tango. There's a reason why we're arguing, but sometimes, again, maybe the people pleaser in me, it's like I may have done something that really made this worse or made this really bad. So I'm trying to get to know, okay, what did I do wrong? What can I do? Ask questions, be curious. It's not the time to shut up. It's now time to ask questions. Okay, it may be fixed now. Then I ask, Leafy, is it okay if I ask questions about what just happened?
Like asking that permission so that you can open up
Open
that
up,
conversation.
Mhm.
Not opening up the what naayos na eh. It was fixed already, but in the future if this thing happens again, what would you prefer me to do?
I think it helps that there's always an accountability.
Yes.
That radical responsibility, that it's not about who started this,
Right.
but it's more of like, how am I co-creating this situation? If you are in a relationship, both of you are part of the conflict. So maybe because you've always had the pattern that you're always silent, and suddenly you're napuno ka na, di ba? And so the other person also, I thought that was okay. Di ba? Parang now you're bringing it up. I thought that was already in the past.
Yeah.
So it helps that you always, like, after you renew your intention, you also have that, okay, how am I co-creating this? How am I part of this problem? So I am also part of the solution.
Which is such a hard thing for a lot of us to
Yes.
point it back at us, though, because it's like a lot of us are very conditioned to like blame.
Yes.
You did this kasi to me.
Yes.
Pero like to have that reflection of where did I go wrong naman that contributed to this particular thing.
So it's also being wary, because we can also go to self-blame. Di ba? Parang,
True.
so it's not self-blame. It's actually proactive accountability of what led me to this situation. Because we always talk about there's no external trigger. And that's so hard for people to say. No external, of course not. She
It's really her, eh. It's really him, eh.
But it's more of like, what is a trigger? It's trigger. We learned it nga from the trigger. When you think of a trigger, you think of a gun. Diba? The trigger is
Is
not.
that-
It's not what's dangerous. What's dangerous is if it's a
The bullet
Bullet.
that comes out.
bullet that comes. It can be a water gun. So it's not a trigger. It's just a sign for you. So trigger is something when you feel something, then it's just, we need to apply curiosity. Oh, there's a message here that my body is telling me that I'm already in a time warp. I'm not in the present moment anymore. I'm not even seeing my partner anymore.
Right.
I am now transported to my past,
Mm-hmm.
where this similar situation happened to me, and I'm now my 7-year-old self.
Mga Immortal, listen to the Underpaid Podcast with me, Stanley Chi, wherein we talk about work-related topics in a light manner na parang nagchichismisan lang tayo or nagkukwentuhan. Listen for free on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or kung saan ka man nakikinig ng podcast. Kita kits!
or and or my 13-year-old self. And how I'm acting up, I'm acting like I'm having a tantrum. So that's so hard kasi parang you're the other person is right in front of you and but when we know it's just a trigger is a reminder, tormenting reminders that's instilling guilt and shame. And it's also growth. We're resisting growth and success for us.
Yeah.
So when we know now that, okay, this is a time for me to gather what is the lesson here about myself, where I still need to heal and grow. And my partner, my relationship is teaching me that.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but you're right, it's hard.
It's hard. It's hard.
Because like I understand like the thought process no. But talking about it now, like when you're triggered and you start to be curious about that
Yeah.
trigger, where is it taking you back in
Yes,
time?
Back in time, that's
But
right.
but then like if it's happening in the heat of the moment, it's like
Oh, no.
How do you-
Oh, my gosh.
what is the importance of a pause?
There you go. There you go.
Yes.
And sometimes when you are in the heat of the moment, it's hard. It's
Yeah.
really hard. But the awareness of, okay, wait, before we go there, that's why hindi pwede, you can't be to you can't argue at the same time. Because what happens there, you're just going to go one over the other.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Kit, when she does this thing during our what you call this, our workshop, she does something with her hand in her face, if I may.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So she says when you are in the heat of the argument, you're face to face and you can't breathe. You cannot breathe because they're right in front of you. So you want to put a gap between yourself and whoever the situation or the other person or the other party. So the only way to do that is to breathe. So you can actually, it's going to be hard, but for us, we can tell each other, Leafy, I need 5 minutes. Okay, I just have to settle down. My heart is racing, and I'm not going to think properly, or I might say something that make things worse. So by breathing lang, kasi you're in that moment, if you remember that, okay, this is really, really overwhelming, but I'm breathing. Even if Kit is still there and she's blah 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 blah, Leafy, just give me a few minutes, please. If she says, no, I want it in the beginning. Before it was no, I want to talk about it now. I'm not ready. I don't know what I'm going to say. Can I just then that pause really makes a difference.
Yes.
Because you can really say in the heat of the moment, you can say things that are so hurtful.
That's why the practice before the conflict is so important. The everyday thing.
What, like how do we practice
So,
that?
so because 10% of the time, all these things about breath work, it works only 10%. When you have high emotion, okay, your logical brain is disconnected from your emotional brain, the amygdala
Yeah.
to the prefrontal cortex.
True.
So, high emotion, low intelligence. So, there's no way for you to be able to connect that. So, and it's so hard because your nervous system is like pumped up, right? So, what's important is the work when there's no argument. And we go back to the work of the research of Dr. the Gottmans, about the 3 principles in working in a relationship. So you set yourself up when there's conflict, then you have your emotional bank account is high.
Yeah.
Meron kang investment na
Yeah.
mataas na, hindi ka na running low.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and just to mention, like, the practice before the conflict, I think is so crucial because it's like you can't be in practice mode but you're in conflict.
Yes.
Na parang it's like, I mean, yes, you're still learning, but at the same time, it's like it's so hard for you to resort to, what you've learned when it's like you haven't set particular things in place so
Correct.
that you can set
Yes.
yourself up for success in resolving it.
Exactly. Exactly. That's why it's called practice.
Mm-mm.
Para pag war, naka-practice.
Handa na.
Handa ka na to navigate it with neutral energy. Because your nervous system is prepared. So the three principles is creating love maps, enhancing your love maps,
Fondness and appreciation.
fondness and appreciation, and
And
the third one is
bids for connection.
bids for connection. So these things, and I love the first part about enhancing your love map.
I've actually never heard of that, so
Ah.
please share that.
Yeah.
So I think the love map is really the being curious, asking the
Okay,
question.
yeah.
So when Kit mentions practicing, it's hard nga naman to practice how to argue or how to be in conflict. In my opinion, in my case, after the conflict, that's the time nga to ask questions. I mean, maybe not right after, but being intentional in being present kasi it just happened eh. So you want to be able to ask questions when it's safe. Because when
there's no
When
it's
there's no
not high
energy.
energy
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
So even before even argument, diba when you're dating, you want to feel the other person is interested in you.
Yes.
How do you know the other person is interested in you? They ask you questions. But parang diba after a date, parang if they didn't ask you any question, parang how am I'm gonna talk about myself, diba? So in a relationship also, especially if you're already married or your boyfriend, girlfriend, continue to get to know the other person.
Yeah.
So
Continue
ask
to learn.
question. Continue to learn. I like what the example also. You just don't ask, how was your day? How are you today? You know, those little things. It's about you. I'm concerned about you. And asking questions that are open-ended.
Yes.
How do you like our home? You know, how do you like are you happy with this? If we can change something here, what would you like to change? So you're also dreaming together. You're also getting to know each other, different sides of yourselves. Like in that conversation at the dinner, what did you notice about, that restaurant? What's it something new?
Like, what did you like about it?
What did you like
What was
about
your favorite
it?
part?
Yeah, what is your favorite part? So you're really just very curious. And you're now, how is the internal map? If you can read the brain of your partner.
Oh, that'd be so nice.
Yeah.
Right.
How would it look like? So you ask questions and then you're creating your own map.
Yeah.
And it becomes exciting. It's like building a SimCity. SimCity in age.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mine na
2001.
lang. Minecraft na.
No.
Building your own of how it looks like in your partner's life also.
Parang universe na sa utak nila.
Yes, diba? That makes it exciting. That's
Mm-mm.
enhancing your love map.
Okay.
It makes you feel that you're still interested
Yes.
about the other
Yeah,
person.
and you mentioned it earlier, the growth. I think nobody wants to be in a relationship where it's just stagnant. You're just doing the same thing over everything. Routines are nice, but you can only get to a certain. Sometimes even routines can be a cause of conflict because there's
Right.
no growth, right? So, that love map is really a nice tool to be able to see where this relationship is going, making it exciting, dreaming together, diba? So that there's always, again, that word growth.
And then the second is fondness and admiration.
Which
Appreciation, yeah.
yeah, I think a lot of us skip out on that, especially after siguro years of like being together.
Together.
And it's like it's a given, but then it's still nice to express that.
Yes, it's very. And you also model it, especially if you have children.
That's true.
You also model it to your children. Even like every day when Inaki brings kids to school, for example. So thank you for waking up early and bringing the kids to school. Thank you for doing these things that I really appreciate it. I don't have to think about it. Inaki does the grocery at home, so even those things that sometimes you can take for granted, but they are things that still needs to be expressed often. Sometimes you also think, "Ay, he knows ano, obvious ba? He knows that." So it's still there are also people who needs to hear it more often than others, and because of the busyness of life, it makes it more intentional also to still verbalize it, because people cannot read your mind also, and even to recall your stories, of how you began. It really helps induce the spark and keep the fire going in the relationship as well, so that it may be just small and often. It's just that's what's needed.
It feels nice to be validated naman talaga eh.
Oh,
Nice to be
yeah.
seen.
Diba? Yeah, na parang I see what you're doing. I really appreciate
I
you,
really
stepping in
Yes.
to for a particular thing. So yeah.
Thank you for
Fondness and
saving the day.
appreciation.
Thank you for saving the day.
I feel like that would feel nice also for men, if I'm not mistaken. Because I feel like there's a learning curve, I guess. I mean, for both genders, let's
Yes,
be honest,
yes.
when it comes to conflict, or like when it comes to wanting to connect with your partner, no. Because I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Iñaki, like if men feel like they're like either they're taken for granted, or there's just like they don't feel appreciated, or they're just existing.
Well, it sometimes just said. There are some men who are just quiet, eh.
Right.
But you don't. But I think, but it's also for men and women, because I also feel the same way about, am I acknowledging her enough? Am I being there for her? Am I really listening when I'm there with her? Or sometimes you say it's, do we have the same interests? No, in a relationship like Kit and I, 18 years, husband and wife, you get to learn more about each other.
Yes.
So you let go of the things already na, like, I don't need, music. Yeah, we like the same music, but I don't have to listen to this song, no? I can let go of that. But when it comes to I have a new something that will help us with our business to make it easier. Then when I share that with you, it will be nice if you can listen to me. So it's really knowing what the interests of your partner is, because when there's that connection, it's when I see na, oh, she's listening to me when I was sharing with her how to be able to cut or splice our videos to make it easier. I feel appreciated. For her naman, when she's excited about something that she learned about with Gabor or with Shafali or with Esther
Pearl.
Then it's not being that I'm fake na. I want to learn also, because what has happened with me because of this, I'm closer. Because of what she's doing, I'm closer to my kids. I remember to be present with them when they come home from school, or with Kit when she's really into this new person. I really want to listen. I want to learn what she's going through as well.
Yeah, I think that leads to the third one, which is little bids for connection. Yeah, those things that when I'm listening to Inaki, like, nodding or just saying, ganyan lang. It doesn't have to be like a full expression, but you know that the other person is paying attention to you.
Right.
Then it gives you gana to share. But when the other person, diba, no reaction. If they're NR, never mind lang. Dr. Gottman nga said, there's a low probability that people will rebid for that connection.
Wow.
They will not ask for it anymore.
One example, when Kit is, I have a tendency to finish sentences.
Okay.
Even if I know, I don't know, for whatever reason. So when Kit is so excited and then she wants to share, and then I finish that sentence, she loses the energy.
Oh.
You know?
Oh,
and I'm
no.
like, oh, I did it again.
I'm like, huh?
Diba? I did it again. And then I'm like, Sleepy, I'm sorry. I don't know. I was just so excited also that. And then she's like, what was I talking about again? I forgot. I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, kasi sometimes like you're in the, no, diba, parang, so when,
Like he's as enthusiastic as
Yeah,
you. Please.
yeah.
It's there, but
Yeah.
I
mali.
see that intention, but sometimes it's like you're just, your mind is also thinking faster than you can speak. So by the time you're about to speak it, and then he says something, I'm like, huh? I'm like, what? And then, oh no, I lost my thought. So it's just that also, I think those are the really minor thing, but makes a lot of difference. So because when you have you're very curious, you're making your internal your interest love maps, and then you're also have that affection and your bids of connection. When that adds up, you're depositing in the emotional bank account of the other person. Then now, Dr. Gottman calls it positive sentiment override. So now of course conflict will always happen, but you don't have ang laki ng baon mo, your cookie points, your cookie jar is filled up. So you don't have a chip on your shoulder, and it's just easier for you to let it go. Like,
Yeah, so it's like you're not building resentment.
Yes, exactly. So, but when you don't have enough deposits, and then, then something lang that you would say, parang you already take it personally.
1:5, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, for every withdrawal in your emotional bank account, it takes at least 5 deposits to make up. And it's always, we teach also the 7 habits of highly effective people. And one of the principles of emotional bank account, it's always the receiver who determines whether the action is a deposit or a withdrawal.
Ah,
Sometimes we, if you are trying to make a deposit, but you're just doing different things to be able and think that it is a deposit, it's not up to me. It's really up to the
It's
other
a
person.
receiver.
So how then do we know if it's a good enough deposit for the partner? How
That's
do we
when
get to
you
that?
learn to enhance your love maps. That's part of the process.
Questions.
Ask questions.
Be curious.
Be curious.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, diba, how many times I've asked you, I've given you so many stuff already. Galit ka pa rin?
Oo.
Yeah, parang,
I
ano ba
told
yan?
you I want this lang for my birthday. Why are you doing so many other things? Ito lang ang gusto ko.
Yeah.
So,
Sounds family.
Yeah, very familiar. I'm like, don't, why are you putting so much pressure on yourself? I just want this. I'm already telling you what I need and what I want. So, get to know the other person. What is a deposit for them and what is really a non-negotiable for them. If you already know that this is a non-negotiable and you still do it,
Break it. Yeah.
yeah, then the repair is going to be harder.
Right.
And don't expect that, it's gonna be an easy ride if you really want that relationship to work out. So it's relationships that you build trust. You build the currency of relationship is really trust. And how do you build trust? The deposits and the withdrawals in the relationship.
Gosh. I feel like bankers, financial professionals
yeah.
will appreciate it.
Online
Yeah,
banking ba?
But
Pwede naman.
the only difference with financial banking and emotional banking, hindi siya 1:1, di ba? Kasi one withdrawal.
Oh,
for
yeah, that's
the
right.
one
It's
that
5.
can already be a close account. And that, and sadly also, the positive, it's also more positive makes up for one withdrawal. So it's really 1:5. Hindi siya 1:1.
So keep the emotional bank account
account
full as
Yes,
much as possible.
As much as possible.
So that the conflict won't be as intense and
Yeah.
that it's and at least and also practice the 3 principles.
Yes.
Enhancing the love map, appreciation and fondness,
Yes.
and bids for connection. I am acing
wow.
this exam.
Yes. Good listening.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We could talk about this like so much more. I'm
Yes,
just saying. Go so much longer. But thank you so much, Kit and Inaki, for joining me
Thank
today.
you.
It's
also
just
for
so
inviting us.
it's so fun, always enlightening, and there's always a lot of insight when you guys are. And when I talk to you guys, really.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you guys. So thank you, and for all those who are listening, I hope you have taken away a lot of things for you to handle conflict better, navigate through it better, and show up for your partner better too.
The opinions of podcast creators, hosts, and guests are not necessarily reflective of the official stance of the Pod Network Entertainment, its hosts, or other network programs. The content created by the people behind the podcast is personal and not meant to harm any religion, ethnicity, group, organization, company, or individual.